There has not been an organized teacher strike in Oklahoma in 28 years. But today there is a groundswell of support building in school districts across the state to stage a walkout and protest at the Capitol next month. Protests by students on behalf of their teachers are already taking place as districts contemplate their last stand.
22 for 22! 22 for 22!
This week, students at Charles Page High School in the Sand Springs School District left their classes for 22 minutes of protest. 22 minutes representing the $22 million cut to education by lawmakers this fiscal year.
No more budget cuts! No more budget cuts!
While not sanctioned by the district, administrators and educators smiled at the students' outpouring of support for public education. The same thing happened in Bartlesville the week before. And on Wednesday, February 28th, the Bartlesville School Board called a special community meeting to discuss a suspension of classes, a teacher walkout, if you will, to demand action from state lawmakers. The meeting had to be held at the Bartlesville Community Center because of the number of people in attendance. It was a standing room only crowd of more than 500 people.
It would take a large effort from across the state.
Superintendent Chuck McCauley told attendees that there has been talk in the Bartlesville School District of a walkout since September, but they knew they couldn't go it alone. It wasn't until lawmakers voted down what was billed as the last best chance to give teachers a pay raise 2 weeks ago that McCauley decided to send letters to other school districts to gauge their interest. He says so far 30 school districts are now publicly interested in discussing a suspension of schools to support teachers. In Northeast Oklahoma alone, the list includes Tulsa Public Schools, Union, and Broken Arrow.
I will tell you that there are 3 other very large Tulsa area districts that are not prepared to have their name up, but they simply haven't had the time to gauge their interest level of their school board. So there is broad level support.
So far, the school districts on board for discussion of a walkout represent 25% of students statewide, but that number is expected to grow. At the Bartlesville community meeting, high school teacher and coach Vaughn Bennett expressed the feelings of many others in the room.
People have to let their voices be heard. They have to take to the streets, and they have to demand change. That is the essence of democracy. I support the suspension of school, hopefully on a statewide basis, pressuring lawmakers to do the right thing. History is on our side. I would remind you, because some of you have heard me say this before, the kids do their part. The time has come for us to do ours. Thank you.
It was 28 years ago in April of 1990 that Oklahoma teachers had had enough. Classes were canceled across the state as teachers walked out in protest. It was the year House Bill 1017 was their last best hope for change. The $230 million education and reform legislation included raising the sales tax and increasing individual and corporate taxes. After 4 days off the job, the bill passed and was swiftly signed into law by then-Governor Henry Bellmon. Tulsa Classroom Teachers Association President Patty Ferguson Palmer remembers it well.
People remember it as a very fondly. You know, we all came together and we all fought and we won. And we need a win in this state. Teachers desperately need a win.
Union School Superintendent Dr. Kurt Hartzler was a union teacher in 1990.
There was a jubilation, you know, and there was this sense of hope. Okay, we're now headed in the right direction.
And he says things did get better. Smaller classrooms, higher pay for teachers, and more money for instruction. But now?
It's really discouraging because since that time, it's almost like all of those reforms that we worked so hard to get into place have pretty much been done away with.
And today, it feels like 1990 all over again.
It's deja vu. Deja vu.
Hartzler says we can't go on this way.
And today I say this often, that we are in a crisis unlike anything we have ever seen before. In Union Public Schools alone, right now we have 22 open teaching positions.
He says many classes at Union and across the state have unqualified teachers at the helm right now.
We all know the data. The state now has hit a record number of issuing over 1,800 emergency certificates.
Hartzler says lawmakers don't realize this is an emergency situation, that Oklahoma is hemorrhaging teachers at a record number. And with no action by lawmakers to address the education crisis, Bartlesville is laying out scenarios for an April walkout.
To stay out for instance, a full week, we would have 4 more days to make up.
The Oklahoma discussion comes at a time when the walkout by West Virginia teachers enters a second week.
We've been hearing about West Virginia's teachers who had walked out. Now let's just take 1 second and digest that. West Virginia teachers walked out, and they make more than us.